Okay. So this is this is a re-recording of part 3. I took a listen to the recording from yesterday and decided I wanted to redo it. And this is picking up pretty much where I left off on the last video. I was talking about this desire I have to find an expression of this teaching that is grounded in this time, in this culture. And so I guess by that I mean Western culture, preferably American Western culture here in the 2020s, and even more specifically, an expression of what it is to live here in the Northwest, urban Northwest America, which is pretty specific. But I want to draw upon a couple of examples that Rupert gave that illustrate some of the points I have in mind. So someone asked him if there were any teachings from his teachers, anything that his teachers had taught him that he now disagreed with, that he found inaccurate. And he responded by saying, well, there will always inevitably be differences in the teachings, but those differences will always be differences of the mind. The essential teaching remains the same if you're coming from this understanding, this non-dual understanding. The essential teaching doesn't change. And he references like the Malvakyas, which are the 4 great statements from the Upanishads on the order of Tatvamasi, I am that, or I am that I am. I am Brahman. So that's like as close to the basic truth that we can get, and that throughout these different expressions of the teaching, those core truths remain, but the expressions of it change relative to the time and the place and the culture, and even the questioner, or even the seeker. And like if you were looking for directions, I'm here in Portland, Oregon, and if somebody was looking for directions to Portland and they were in Los Angeles, I would say, well, you drive north. And if they were looking for directions to Portland from Vancouver, BC, I'd say, well, you drive south. So it looks like I'm answering this question in 2 mutually exclusive ways, like 2 very different ways. But you don't always drive south to get to Portland. It's relative to where the questioner is. Who's asking? And where are they? So the teaching may change. The expression of the teaching shifts and changes relative to the needs of the moment. But that answer will always be grounded in where's Portland, right? Like the directions to Portland imply that the answer will reference the location of Portland, which doesn't change, but where you are in reference to Portland will. So that starts to get at what I was talking about in my last video. The teachers, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramana Maharshi, all these, Gaudapada. I'm being visited by chickens right now. They're marching around my chair. Hi, ladies. Finding anything interesting down there? Anyway. So, they were speaking relative to their time and place, and relative to their language, relative to their culture. And I'm seeking that which is here and now. And I'm looking within myself. But also, what's here? What is the knowledge expressed within the Pacific Northwest, from that relative point of view, here in the 2020s? So, and here's another example from Rupert. He talks about the three ways that humans apprehend the world, that they apprehend reality: thinking, feeling, and perceiving. And he says that those roughly line up with different modes, different modalities of teaching within South Asian wisdom traditions. So thinking lines up roughly with Jnana Yoga, which is the path of knowledge, which Advaita Vedanta leans into pretty heavily. It's often considered to be intellectual, which I don't know is completely accurate, but you can say, one of their fundamental premise is that the root of suffering, the source of suffering, is due to ignorance. And how do you get rid of ignorance? By acquiring knowledge. Once you have knowledge, then that removes the ignorance. Okay. Then there's feeling. And he associates that with bhakti yoga. So Jnana Yoga, the way of knowledge, and bhakti yoga, the way of devotion or love. And then the third, perceiving, he says that he finds that not well represented, or at least not as well represented in the teachings. But he calls it the way of the artist, the way of beauty. And I think certainly you'll find that in the writings of Kabir and Hafiz and some of the Sufis, and also I think in Kashmir Shaivism and Tantra. And so there's these three modalities, these different traditions seem to lean into their particular mode. An example of this, within Vedanta, particularly within Advaita Vedanta, desire is seen as an impediment, or at least it's an impediment to, if you're on the path of knowing the self. After awakening, maybe not as much, but certainly on the path to awakening, desire is seen as a distraction and should be overcome. Now there's some debate about what that means, and I can get into that in a moment. But the reason is because this clouds the mind. Desire clouds the mind. And it occurs to me that that's really only a problem if you think if you're certain that the mind is the only path to truth, the only tool for apprehending truth. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking Advaita, and I'm not knocking the path that they espouse. And there are other pathways. Like in Tantra, desire is, any experience, any human experience is a gateway to truth. That's instructive. And I think they certainly have a different or very refined view of what constitutes desire, what is desire. And I don't feel qualified to hold forth on that. But here's my point. I think over the last few thousand years, we've come to know that there are these different pathways, these different ways of knowing beauty, truth, and love. And what resonates, what draws me is a path that includes all of human experience, all those ways of knowing. Balance. I have desires, I do, but they don't have me, not anymore. I can have a desire and not be identified with it. I can fulfill the desire or not, and that doesn't change who I know myself to be. I am that which is the light behind all of knowing, the light that illumines all of existence. It's what makes experience possible. And that light doesn't discriminate. It illumines everything. I see the face of God in all. And I am in love with it. Everywhere I find it, which is everywhere. I think that's good for now.